There we go.
You're feeling brave today.
But all it's time, the We Will Fix It show with Colin Thomas from We Will Fix It Dubai and Essential Maintenance, by the way.
I don't forget it. You might do.
A Rove Hotel downtown Dubai in the Epic Podcast Studios, where this show's coming to you from everything you wanted to know but were afraid to ask. We're going to be talking about, we're going to create a Zen moment.
I need Zen. That's good.
Now, have you ever thought, has Natalie ever broached the idea of a Zen room in your living space?
I can't think of anything less suitable for a very direct Yorkshire woman than a Zen room. It's not really going to work in our household, really.
No.
We have the Zen room actually for the dog. Bless him. He's got in the playroom. Yeah, in the middle of the playroom, there is this amazing shaggy rug.
Yeah.
And he just goes in there, flops, and he is totally and utterly chilled at that point.
Okay.
So he has Zen, if not the rest of us do. One of those.
Well, I put together a little list of questions that people were firing at me this week, and I said, I'll ask Colin.
Oh God!
And we'll go from there. So I wanted to start off with a quick rapid fire of some of those just to get your thoughts.
Oh, okay.
And then of course you never know where we're going.
Well, the thing was, I just spotted. You see, I did do a bit of research, and I try and do it beforehand. Yeah, but the bit that I missed was your number one point, which was 10 minutes with Colin. So I've just come up with the one now. Now you know how we always shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
Well, this I'm not even reaching my hip on this one. So we'll. But I think we can do it. I think it'll be all right.
All right. Well, are you? Do you need to be fluffed, or are you ready to go?
I can do it whenever you are.
We're doing it right now. Then here we go.
Oh, that's still good, isn't it? It's still good, that intro. Absolutely love that one. Now, 10 minutes with me today is going to be about this particular time of year. Now, this is probably going to go out in a couple of weeks, but we're right now just at the start of February. Now, the start of February in Dubai is all about transition, and we transition from kind of winter to maybe summer, or maybe even just kind of that intermediate period where it's warm, but it's not crazy, which is good. Now, this for me is a big opportunity from a maintenance perspective for everybody, because all of the companies like us are still relatively quiet. We're not on crazy peak season, it's all gone ballistic. But we're also not totally and utterly dead as well. So it's a really good time for people to catch up, because it's really obvious, and especially during COVID periods, it's really obvious that there will be periods where your house is not your top priority. And we get it, that's perfectly normal. But at the same time, people, with the way that funds are right now, are looking for a bit of a deal as a standard thing.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody is about to miss the deal, because as soon as the heat hits, all deals come off the table, and we basically hang on to see whether or not we're going to make it through the summer season without too many problems. So really now is that moment where anybody who was thinking, "Ooh, I've been holding off on this and I've been holding off on that," now is pretty much your last chance to be able to get a deal out of maintenance companies such as ourselves. So what would you be thinking of? Well, everybody thinks about the obvious one, and that is AC. AC is one of those things that you do need in the summer, whether or not you've thought about it yet, because it's still cold. But because it's still cold, this is now the time where you need to actually be thinking about it. So what do I mean by that? Well, as a start point, it always makes sense to start off with an AC service. And the reason for this isn't what most people might think. The reason for this is because it's the cheapest of the services that are offered by most maintenance companies. So generally there are three services. There's the AC servicing, there's duct cleaning, and there's coil cleaning. Now, to work out whether or not you need a duct clean or a coil clean, somebody's got to go and actually have a look at it. Because if they don't go and have a look at it, they don't know whether or not you actually need it. So are they overselling you something? Now, with an AC service, you need that. Now, most companies will say every 4 months or whatever, and there's some properties that do need that, but a lot of people can extend that depending on your ACs and how much they used, etc., to once every 6 months. Now, if you're getting your AC serviced by a reputable company, they'll be taking the covers off the outdoor units if you're in a split unit. They'll be opening up your indoor units. Hopefully everybody will do that. And at the same time, they can inspect the coils and the ducts free of charge. And this is a service that you need anyway, periodically through the year.
And how do they inspect the coils and the ducts? Just with a flashlight and a ladder?
See, the flashlight, believe it or not, is the best method for a coil, because what you're trying to work out is this coil blocked with dirt?
Yeah.
Now, if you just physically take a look at it, the outside will always look a little bit dusty, but it doesn't really tell you what level we're at. And as a general rule of thumb, coils are once every 2 years.
Really, that's it?
Yeah, don't need to be done too often. But the problem is, if you are in a rented property, highly unlikely unless you've got that awesome landlord that they've been done within 2 years. It's very, very rare that that's happened. So really though, it's important that a technician who knows what they're looking at comes, sticks a flashlight on one side of it and looks in different areas of the coil to see whether or not they can see through it and also what level of dirt is there. At that point, they can take pictures for you so you can see it as well. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat to that, which is if you are Joe Public and you're looking at a coil, it may well have been cleaned very, very recently. However, to Joe Public, it will still look horrendous.
Okay, gotcha.
There are lots of companies out there that capitalise on this to oversell to people. So you need somebody that you can trust within with that kind of process, without a doubt. So those are there. But again, this can be done in a minute or two when somebody is doing an AC service, so that way you're not paying the extra diagnosis fee to be able to do this.
And so right now is a slow time. Right now you're not using your AC, so it's not critical. And you can get a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Now the other side of things is they're going to be cleaning your vents as part of a standard AC service.
There we go.
When they're cleaning the vents, and actually they can look from both sides. They can look from the vent side and also from the unit, the indoor unit side, to see what condition your ducts are in. Now, it may well be that if you've just been hit with an AC service, that you're not going to want to do your coils and your ducts at the same time because the price point will end up much higher. But what it will do is give you an honest assessment of where you are and what your priorities need to be for the year. And it might be you can get right the way through the summer period and come out the other side and go, right, okay, it's deal time again now because it's now cold. Simple rule of thumb: if it's cold outside, there is the potential for a deal. If it's warm outside, there really isn't. And if there is when it's warm, you need to worry about that company because they should be really busy at that time of year. And therefore, if they're not, why not? Okay? So it's about value for money. So value for money is right now, start with an AC service because you need it anyway, and ask them to expect free of charge, not with additional charge, for both your coils and your ducts. And that way you can be aware. Again, if there is other things like plumbing, those kinds of things, they come under more pressure during the summer. So again, now is a very good time to get that initial early season stuff done. And very rarely you'll get a deal on plumbing and that kind of stuff because it is less critical to the
It just
standard.
happens all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but again, it is a good time to get that done so that you're not without water during the heat of the summer.
So the big message is,
Look now, yes, now's time to start thinking about it. Don't need to even get everything done, but at least know what condition your property is in.
And that is...
This is 10 minutes with Colin.
Now, I'm catching grief about this, by the way.
Are you? Have we blown out people's speakers?
No, I'm catching grief. It says the outro should be, that was 10 minutes with Colin.
Oh yeah, it's a fair point. I hadn't even spotted that.
James,
I feel shortchanged.
That means I'll have to record another one.
How
I
could
have
you?
the original still. It might be quite. It was like, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I have the whole stuff to do it again.
To be honest, and I know what you said. You know, he's all right, but he's not that good. He doesn't deserve two. He should be happy with one. And I am, James. I am. You know, for rank amateur to get one of that depth is quite something, isn't it?
But that's great advice, though. I love that advice.
Well, that was a bit of a shoot from the hip. And, you know, there's kind of two aspects. You know, we do run a business. And so at the end of the day, yeah, of course I'm going to try and sell our services. But I also think that the whole idea for us is about having this long-term relationship with customers, whereby once we've got them, they want to stay with us throughout their time in Dubai, wherever they move. And we try and make that as easy as possible through essential contracts, actually, where, you know, I think we're about the only people that don't have any penalty clauses if people move house.
Cool.
Well, it's
just take
it's
it with you to
logical.
the next house.
Of course you do, you know, but that's not a standard thing here. But again, it's the other thing is having been a resident here for 15 years and now having a family here, I'm in exactly the same position as all of our customers, or the majority of them anyway.
Right.
And so understanding the rationale behind, okay, what purchase decisions do I make, and therefore what does that mean for other people in the business, kind of comes naturally. And what we found, and it's absolutely fact, is if you are not absolutely authentic and honest with people,
Yeah.
and you push a sales pitch at them, they spot it a mile off.
Yeah.
So instead, be authentic, do the job that you claim, warranty the work that you do, and you'll be absolutely fine. And that's really been our focus since 2008.
I love it. Hey, we were talking AC, and I got a gripe here, not with you guys, just in general, is squeaky AC duct things or grates or, and I don't know how many, when you were talking about hotel rooms in our last podcast,
Yes.
and you get that squeaky little thing, or the worst one I find is somewhere in the duct there's a junction or something, and you hear that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, it's really frustrating, isn't
I
it?
don't know how you fix those things.
Well, the thing is, that can be one of a whole list of different things, okay? The one inside the duct is a damper. So,
Okay, so there's a damper somewhere that's needs some WD-40 or
no.
No.
Well, let's explain what a damper is first.
grease removal.
No. Right. So basically, all a damper is a big bit of metal that sits in the duct, and it's there to a junction to deflect different amounts of air, cool air, in the different directions, normally between two rooms.
Okay.
So what happens is when these get a little bit old or used for a while, then they start to get loose. And at that point, if you imagine it's got air that's pushing against it, and then it flaps, dick, 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 okay? So normally what you'd actually do is there's a mechanism on the side with a slider, which to alter the amount that you want into each room.
Okay.
And you need to tighten that. Okay. Now this isn't something Joe Public can find or do. So this is one way you'd need to get somebody in.
Yeah.
But then the problem is that same squeak can be a number of different things. It can be, first of all, it could be the fan motor itself, which has got bad bearings. It can be the blower that's attached to that is slightly asymmetric and therefore is creating a vibration that you've got. It could be the housing which is hitting the blade, or in effect the roller that is there. It could be the mountings for the indoor unit that are loose, and as a result the whole indoor unit is moving and flexing with the pipe. It could be the vent vanes that are you can see on the outside that are loose. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a whole bunch of different things it could be.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it's not just as simple as, I mean, if it was the vent, right?
Yeah.
There is the possibility to fix it as a DIY, and in that situation, the simple test is get up on a ladder safely, grab hold of the vent, and see whether or not anything stops.
Yeah.
If it does, you know you've got a loose vane. Now, with a loose vane, there is only really a bodge solution for most of it, to be brutally honest. And what you would normally do is bend it very slightly so that in effect you're putting pressure onto the mount points either side, so that way it's there. But again, you then got a bend on your vent, which looks pretty terrible, which can be a pain.
Yeah.
Well, landlords,
And you're always going to see it. You look up there. Oh.
yeah, I know you will, but the great thing is landlords never do, because I've done that on quite a few properties now, and I get away with it every time. So
Yeah, all the landlords are listening now. Checklist.
yeah, honestly, well, my landlord's still focused on the fact he's got no rent thanks to Emirates MBD. Oh, jeez. But anyway, we'll sort that next.
Hey, speaking of rent, just a side note, I had an issue where my rent wasn't going through to my landlord, and the checks kept bouncing, and we're going, no, there's money in the account. In fact,
I know, but it looks bad, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I've got an awesome landlord,
Well,
finally.
that's the thing. I've got a great landlord,
Yeah.
and I'm just going, no. Well, and then it's like, well, okay, we could do electronic transfer. Oh no, the landlord's not a big electronics guy.
Great.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
It's so painful, isn't it?
And so finally, the landlord went back to the bank and said, because I then got in touch with my bank, and they said, the check, because he likes checks, has never actually come to us. So it's not on our side that there's a problem.
Oh.
And I'm going, oh, well, that's it. And I said, well, they sent me a thing, and they said, we don't even use that thing, so that's coming from somewhere else. And it turns out the checks themselves, our bank had changed the size of the checks. So it wasn't that there was no money, it was that we needed new checks.
Oh, for goodness
And I'm
sake,
going,
really?
You're going, but you're telling me the check didn't work? It's like, no, we put more security on them and we need the new checks, which are like twice the size. They're like, you know, when you win something?
Oh, yes.
They're like these giant, we're kind of going, who has checks this big?
That's
anyway,
nuts,
and so that's what, for us, that's what it was. It was like, Really? Like, why wouldn't the bank just write a note saying, oh, by the way, you're using old checks and here's a new set?
Yeah.
No.
I've got all sorts of issues right now, but it's really odd because none of it is finance.
Yeah.
It's all down to practicalities of banking systems. It's driving me up the wall. But that's a different story for another day. And the therapy session that we have before we go live on there is greatly appreciated, James. I've got to say.
Yeah, we won't broadcast that one this time.
No, probably best not to. It was a bit of a rant, wasn't it?
So anyway, so we can fix those, but
Yes.
those 5 different things. So at least on the grate, on the grill, it's easy enough to bend it.
Well, yeah, but then the other thing was, as part of a standard AC service, so not additional cost, any company worth its salt should be able to solve that for you. So I would just make sure that you tell people when you're getting your AC serviced, and we just talked in the 10 minutes that that it's really important to get your AC serviced this time of year. We're in February currently, before the temperatures hit to get a decent deal. And again, this should be standard things. Write down any issues that you've got beforehand, and if you have them written and delivered to the AC company, if they don't complete that list or give you something very clear to explain why that's not possible, then that should be covered free of charge within the service.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, one of those.
So otherwise, though, squeaks are just going to be maddening.
Yeah, well, but they are solvable. They're always solvable. It's just a question of sometimes it's not a one hit. I had one in my old place that literally the boys could get rid of, and then it would come back like a month later, and it would take about 4 goes, to be fair, before they could do it. Really? But if you can't test against a problem, we fixed it. If it comes back, there's not much that you can do. As a maintenance provider. And unfortunately, that's a bit of the nature of the beast with maintenance, that sometimes they are going to come back, in which case that's where a warranty comes in.
Yeah, warranty, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a really big one.
Absolutely.
Hey, I want to jump into glue. And I only jumped into this because I was watching some Crazy Glue commercials. And pretty much Crazy Glue, or all these quick-acting glues, are the lifesaver, according to the ads.
According to the ads, how bizarre is that? Yes, they always have something extremely heavy held together with.
Amazing! Like you can fix everything. Like I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, got a problem with the gate? Crazy Glue.
Yeah, I
Got a
know.
problem with the cupboards? Crazy Glue.
Do you know the bit that I can't really understand, which is why is there still welding when this Crazy Glue is so good?
Well, that was the other
why
thing.
are cars not held together with Crazy Glue? Exactly. That's the reason, which is it doesn't work for a lot of things. It does work for the odd application. But really what it all boils down to, as far as I'm concerned, is is it structural? So is there any force that is going through that joint? If there is, you'd be really lucky for it to all work out. And especially if it's not under pressure when you put the glue together. Using the right glue for the right circumstances is pretty clear as well, which can be quite difficult. And then
that's a big one, because I remember years ago we were doing some construction stuff, and we had some planks going together, and then we were screwing them in, and we put a little bit of glue on the dowelings and a little bit of glue on the joints, but we were still screwing things, so we got this extra bond. And I'm not quite sure why we're putting the wood glue in there.
No, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, but I don't know why I'm doing that. Like I'm thinking, okay, I get why I'm using the screws, but if the glue's gonna just be in there with the screws,
just holds it tighter.
Okay.
Bottom line, and if one loosens off, and screws can lose their grip, especially on wood, because wood's a live resource. Yeah. So they can loosen off. So if you glued it as well, you're in a great place.
So beware of glue, though. And there's so many different kinds of glue.
Yeah, there are.
And good for a bodge job and a quick fix if you got someone coming in, but you don't want to be there a month later.
That's the issue, yes. So, and also the use, there's some glues that are easier to use than others, with epoxy and things like that. You've got the vapors. Secondly, you've got the 2-part that needs to go together. Thirdly, you've got a different set time. So you need to have a bit of knowledge there to be able to do it.
I wonder if a lot of people use epoxy glues, or, you know what they are.
Araldite type.
But I wonder if a lot of people are still using those, because that whole mixing phase, if I got the right mix, how far am I off, and then the set time, and
Actually, I don't use it all that often, thinking about it.
Yeah. Contact cement, that's one I like.
Well, it's great unless the kids are anywhere near you. And at that point, Daddy, I'm stuck with the ruby. No, God, no, son, not again.
I just love, contact cement doesn't give you a lot of, there's not a lot of give, but that's the one, for folks who aren't familiar with that, where you literally put the glue on both surfaces.
Yes.
You kind of let the glue dry.
Yes.
And then you stick it down, and away you go, and it welds it together.
Yeah, but again, that is bond of one part of the glue against the other part of the glue. The question mark on that one always is, what's the adhesion like with the surface on each side?
Right.
So the classic one with that one was I had to glue maybe 3 times this toilet holder up, and I couldn't drill it because it was on a marble surface. Ooh. And it was a landlord who I knew was a pain in the neck over that last landlord. Okay. Anyway, well, we won't go into him. So therefore, I wasn't able to drill it.
Do you drive by that place still now and just kind of snicker every now and then?
Yep, still empty.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad decision.
I don't think he sold it either, because you'd have thought somebody would have moved in if he'd sold it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. So we were. Where were we? Oh yes. Contact cement. I'd done it that many times that Dylan had seen it that I was like, you know what? Let's let him have a go.
Oh no.
I know. What was I thinking? Anyway, now Dylan having to go with glue is like major news in our household. So then at that point, he got really. It was like.
Oh, the two of them are doing it.
Well, that was the thing. Dylan's not allowed to do it on his own because I'm not allowed to do it. Okay, sit and watch. Don't get involved. Can I hold the glue? No, you can't hold the glue. Dylan gets so frustrated that he's like, oh, just hold the glue. Well, she can't hold the glue, can she? She has to see what the glue is.
Oh, no.
Glue on fingers, okay? Dylan then has squeezed too much glue onto the marble surface. So, having been told, make sure you only use a little bit like Daddy does every time. I'm busy trying to do something else that's time critical. Can't remember what it was. Anyway, next thing you know, Dylan's wiped around the edge with his finger. And then they've obviously gone, oh, this isn't right. Yeah. So then one tried to clean the other, and then basically they got a really good contact against each other. Now, we were just lucky that because they're kids with mucky hands, that the actual adhesion to skin wasn't too bad. Oh, but luckily, Her Majesty didn't see that one and was able to clear it up before she spotted it.
And they didn't mention it to her, oh, wow, how was you doing? Oh, we had a glue incident, but we got it sorted.
No, I obviously, in that point, you've got to enact the whole rules of if you ever tell anyone about this, then you're never going to be able to do anything with glue ever again. So, yes, that kind of calmed everything down. But I have learned my lesson. They are never going to do anything with glue again.
It didn't work.
Absolutely not. I had to redo it 2 days later and put some extra attention into it.
I always put up these little hooks, and this has got a glue link to it. I put these little hooks on the tiles because I know,
command strips, those kind of things.
They always come off.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say command strips are pretty good. And what I do like about them is those...
I get a month, and then they fall off. And it's like, I got to be a better way to do this. But I don't want to drill holes through things and crack the tiles, and I often think I could do the joint. I could get through the joint if I'm lucky, or not. So I just go with command strips.
It's when you're going through them, or have to go through the middle of a tile, and when you've got no idea about how badly it was attached in the first place,
right? And
you end up with that one cracked tile on the wall. Oh, that's when it goes really badly wrong.
So I don't want to do it. So I just suffer through. But I was because maybe there's some glue.
Nah, I'm not a fan, I've got to say. And the putties as well. I mean, the putties kind of were a bit of a revolution about a decade ago. But then the problem is they're all different. So you've got your metal putty, you've got your plumbing, like underwater putty.
I've used that stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It is cool, it's really cool. But then again, how many putties am I supposed to stock? And also they go hard in time as well. Yeah. So you've got, I've just bought 8 different putties here, of which I'm probably going to use 1. Maybe even a quarter of it. So the wastage rate is just insane. So then you buy for just the job that you actually need. Well, the thing was, it was a 5-minute job previously, but now I've had to go to Ace to go and pick up the putty. It turned into 2 hours. It's the frustration factor of that's kind of irritating.
Speaking of Ace, and I know we're still talking glue, but we're going to get to, we already did the AC thing too.
Oh, blimey, we have.
Have you been to Ace in the last couple of weeks?
Last couple of weeks, no. Which one?
The one at Festival City that seems to have redone the layout inside.
Oh yeah, no, I've been there since they redid the layout. That took some getting used to. Mind you, they aced a couple of things, which was both the Dyson stand and also the Nespresso stand. They're quite near the entrance now.
So neither of those which I take advantage of. So
no, but obviously you like going to have a quick play with what the new stuff is, don't you?
No. Well, maybe the Dyson stuff, but I don't use Nespresso. I'm a home barista myself, so I grind and tamp my own espresso.
Nice, blinking heck. Well, we had
lessons. I took a lesson.
good on you.
Yeah, over at Raw Coffee.
Oh, you did tell me about this.
I took my machine in. The barista's there, put it down. They got it, how to go with it. They played around with it. Said it's not a bad machine.
Cool.
And then showed me exactly how to do everything with it.
My issue is speed, though. So normally I am running when it's time for coffee. Like this morning, I was absolutely adamant taking the kids to school that I was going to get the coffee in. No, it's like, you haven't got time for coffee in the shower. I'm like, I've got time for both.
Do you have the Nespresso
Watch
in the
this.
shower? Did you put one in there? No.
I think that's about as dangerous as it gets, isn't it? No. So what I did was I got
a little shelf with a little waterproof cabinet door, and you open it up, and there's the Nespresso, and then you close the door, and the electricity's running another. What an idea!
What a terrible idea, James. I mean, we're talking 240 volts and a huge amount of power for the heating element.
You got a waterproof door, and you close it.
Well, assuming that actually works. Well, on the basis that the shower door that's designed for it doesn't even work, I don't fancy the chances there. I mean, at the end of the day, though, James, what's the worst that could happen?
There we go, right?
No, so I've got this Creatista Plus, which I did. I think I told you about the whole crazy trading that I did. Okay, so I absolutely adore this thing, and basically it will do a full kind of frothy coffee with a full steam milk for me, and I can get the whole thing done in under a minute. It's just brilliant. I love it. So so basically, yeah, that is it for coffee, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So did you get the coffee done and get in the car with the kids and get to school in time?
And the shower.
The shower.
Did all of it. Aced it.
Wow.
I was on really top form this morning for daddy daycare. It was good.
Okay.
Rare, admittedly rare.
Someone asked me to ask you, what do you think the best mop is?
Oh, see, this is an interesting one because...
But hold on. When they asked me this, I go, what? They go, oh, there's so many mops. And they actually threw in, if anyone's going to know, it's going to be Colin, and we will fix it, because they leave a place cleaner than when they got there. And I went, fair point.
Well, we go for simplicity, to be brutally honest. So the normal one, if you imagine, 99% of the of properties here have tiled areas, and we're creating quite a bit of mess. So the way that we work is plastic sheets as a start point to clear up the initial amount, and then we just go dustpan and brush initially, and then damp cloth. But the guys are briefed. Yeah, the guys are briefed to use both sides and make sure it's clean before they start. So I have a washing machine in the office that cleans all of them.
So just a damp cloth?
And well, we use microfibers.
So a damp microfiber.
Damp microfiber, and away we go, and it'll wipe.
Wow.
But then again, in a domestic environment, you've got lots of options, as people say. Now, officially, because obviously I would have looked into this, officially steam mops are the best option to do it. Yeah, steam mops. So basically, it's a combination of steam that comes out of the physical unit itself, and again, you get rechargeable versions of it, but the steam goes down as they go. Yeah. Bissell is the main brand. Karcher have them as well. Wow. So they're great. However. Right. So this is now about 2 years ago that we went to see a friend of Dan's, my business partner, who is the head of marketing for Karcher, and we went off to have a look at what he's got. And he had this absolute stunner that's now available out on the market. Now this is basically, it's got a rotating cylindrical head. Think paint roller.
Okay.
Right, but a much shorter nap on it. Okay. And then it has, lint rollers that you have for your clothes, right?
Absolutely.
So basically, imagine like a hybrid of these, but it's on like a vertical arm, almost like a vacuum cleaner arm, and it rotates in the opposite direction to the direction that you're going.
And it's not plugged into anything. It's like
it's rechargeable.
It's a rechargeable unit.
Yeah. Okay. So it's rotating as it's going, and you're pushing it along, and then you have this button where it basically puts a little bit of detergent on it whenever you need it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now your options are, I think they have two versions. They have one which I think is washable, so that you can literally take it off, shove it in the washing machine, and keep it clean that way. Yeah. Alternatively, you have like a lint roller where you take one layer off and you get the next one.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it worked brilliantly. I've got to say, we got it dirty pretty quick, but it was unbelievable how well that worked. So, assuming that you can get the kind of reusable side going, because in our house it'd be black inside 20 seconds flat. But assuming that you get that side working, then for me that's pretty much the ultimate.
See, this is opened up a whole new door. This is like the electronic world. It's not just bucket and mop and
Okay. Well, we can go down that route as well. Now, the difficulty that I have with mops and buckets and that kind of thing is they are built to a price point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are with Veleda. We are a Veleda
Okay.
family.
I like the latest stuff.
I do, but then it has its issues. So the mop heads themselves are really good.
Yeah.
However, they don't match with any other brand whatsoever. And secondly,
Is that the one? So, is yours the Veleda that has that funky little connector system?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay, that's the one that
But there's two different versions of that. There's the blue one, which is their kind of the premium one,
Yeah.
which actually I think works better in terms of holding on to whatever you've lifted. Which is great. They then got a yellow one as well, which seems to have a bit more volume to the mop head as well. However, the actual broom itself that comes from Veleda rusts in no time.
Yeah.
You're like, why is this rust on? I've only had it 3 months.
Yeah.
And
You can't get a replacement. You got to
Yeah,
get
exactly.
You got to
Yeah,
get theirs.
Exactly. So then you get this frustration factor, which is kind of prevalent. So I was like, right, well, you know what? Stuff this. I'm going to try one of the other brands. So I went to one of the other brands, and it was worse. I'm like, really? So where are we getting to with this? And then you think back to when I was growing up, it was a wooden handle,
Yeah.
and then basically a wool mop that was on the end of it.
Yeah.
But they're not available anymore.
Oh,
Well, I can't find them in the traditional sense. You either get just a very, you can get the
Right, I know
wool
what you're
mop
talking
head,
about,
but then it's with just the worst broom itself anyway. So you end up in a situation whereby you're not much better off than the Veleda throwaway every
Well,
3 months.
I like this catcher idea that you've got, because my big thing with these mops, when I start thinking about it, is the water is filthy after about 3 passes and wringing it out. And I look down at the water and it's like, whoa. And now I'm just putting dirty water across the floor. It's like,
There is that issue, without a doubt. In our household, actually, we have mops that are constantly there. I mean, we probably have, 4 around the house.
Really?
With buckets, yeah. And the water is changed on a very frequent basis, to say the least.
So you keep the water in the bucket because you're going to be needing it.
Exactly. I mean, it's used
Really?
constantly. Natalie is a fiend for using that, and giving the glare at the same time. I think, why haven't you done it? It's been 16 minutes since this was last cleaned. You know? Really? I'm getting grief for this.
So you got like 4+ buckets around the house with mops ready to go, and the water's already. But the water's going to be cold.
Yes, it is. It's cold, but it's detergent. I mean, we've got the detergent in there, so it seems to work absolutely fine. But I mean, literally, the number of times that I walk into the house, I mean, I'm sure every place's done this. I'm always late. It's constant. Well, actually, I'm not late.
You're never late coming here.
No, I'm always on time, but I'm on time because everything is a ridiculous rush.
Okay.
So I'm normally bouncing through the house, as in and out, and I've got to go really quickly. So I'm not actually looking to see whether or not the floor is wet or dry until I'm probably about 12. Until I'm about 12 steps in. At which point I hear the dolphin noise, which is you've just gone over my wet floor again. You absolute. So again, this is not something that really is part of my repertoire to look down and check what condition a floor's in.
You need one of those triangle things. Wet floor. Just cleaned.
And it would end up violence if I ever got one. Can you imagine? Oh my Lord! And also the dog would probably eat it.
Yeah.
He's eating everything at the moment, bless him.
Nice.
Hello,
Yeah.
naughty boy.
Mothballs and cats. You know a little bit about cats. Do they keep cats away?
Well, the answer to that is yes, they absolutely do. But the reason is because when you smell mothballs, did you know that's poison?
I think I did know. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So basically, the feedback was beware of the smell of mothballs, without a doubt. So what it basically says is, bottom line, if a cat eats a mothball,
It's a goner.
well,
No cat's gonna eat a mothball, though, is it?
well, apparently they do, and this is what happens. I'm not saying that this is bad, but draw your own conclusions here. So at best, it is vomiting. We then go on to anemia, lethargy, kidney damage,
Yikes.
liver damage,
Oh no.
and then paramothballs. I don't know what a paramothball is, do you? Okay, well, those apparently cause shaking, vomiting, nausea, and possible liver or kidney damage. Yeah, so in effect, I don't think in this day and age, we had mothballs everywhere in my grandma's house back in the day.
And you walk into that grandmother's house and it was like,
Yeah.
you knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew my grandmother. She would even put mothballs in the vacuum cleaner so she would have that smell of the house.
Wow. Granny used to like the poison. My word. The things you learn. Yeah.
Because you guys do a lot with cats, and so that there's always the issue of how do you keep cats away then from property and stuff if you don't want a cat around? I mean,
Well, the
have
normal-
a Rolo, that's the first way.
Yeah. Well, the normal one is trap neuter release in terms of part of that process is communal feeding stations. So in effect, they're kept to areas rather than roaming looking for
Right.
food. And that works really well
That's a good
on the
idea.
whole, yeah. And there's lots of people. I'm in the ranches, and there's really active groups for that. I must say, these days we're busy with other things, so I don't tend to do all that much with those groups anymore. But again, it's something that's ongoing, and the best way of dealing with cat issues, trap neuter release programs, and communal feeding.
We left our last conversation walking out the door talking about fences
Fences.
and the idea of prefab as
Yeah.
opposed to building your own, and there's all sorts of options and things that you can do. And I thought that you've got some experience with fences. I was wondering, what do you think about these prefabs? Some of them are plastic, some are aluminum. So I don't know if there's too many wood prefabs, but I'm sure there are. What are your thoughts on these things?
For me, it's a no-brainer in this climate to go with powder-coated aluminium. They're widely available. They're not cheap, I've got to say.
Oh, and why is that? Like, I would think that because there's so much cladding being used, so much aluminum work being done here, aluminum should be dirt cheap.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's because of the variance in profiles that are needed, and also there's a real commercial cladding market here. And then when you get to domestic, it's all quite bespoke. So even though the panels themselves or the components may well be standardised, they physically need to be constructed specific to the size of area where you are.
Right.
So I quoted quite a few outfits and was getting, just anything between expensive and crazy. So we went with expensive, and we put in round the side, round near our kitchen, we put in probably like a 3.5 metre, 4 metre fence with a gate, and it is roughly 180 high, I would have thought. That's 4,000 dirhams for that. Yeah, I know. It's kind of mildly offended. However, I would have been more offended by the
Miranti?
the
The Miranti
response.
option?
Well, Miranti, yeah. See, Miranti's an interesting one because, again, Miranti is a phenomenal hardwood that is not local to here, but that's pretty much the default hardwood that everybody uses. Right. The issue is, over time, and especially if you've got water in the facility, then it takes some upkeep. And I've got Miranti as well. I did a Miranti fence that is actually, well, I did a Miranti frame.
Miranti frame.
Yeah, because I wanted to reduce some of the cost here, and then I did just like a cane fence that was fixed to the interior of it, so that I still can show the Miranti. It's finished really well. It worked out really well, but that saved a lot of money doing it that way. I mean, literally by a factor of 3.
So the aluminum one you've got, did they just bring right in the panels and fix them, and that's it? The guys are on the truck and in and out in 5 minutes?
No, that was fabbed. Pretty much, they brought the components and they fabbed it on site, even though they got the measurements, which was interesting. But still, it was only like an hour and a half, I guess, to get the whole thing put up. Oh, to be fair, I also got a cupboard built at the same time for the gas bottles that wasn't there, so they did that within the cost.
I've seen these plastic panels that you can get. You just slide them down the tracks.
Yeah.
Those look kind of interesting.
I don't think they're available here. I think they're available in North America. And again, the concept of kind of the UPVC route is all well and good, but A, it's just not prevalent here. And secondly, I wonder why it's not prevalent here.
Yeah, I wonder.
Because bottom line, if it was either cost effective or alternatively able to stand up to the climate, people would be all over it.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're still using, on the majority, they're using kind of aluminium section.
I wonder if it comes down to expertise of those selling the stuff and saying, hey, we know aluminum well, we know wood well.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know PVC stuff too well.
Yeah, but also I think it's kind of high tech, the equipment that you need to be able to construct it. So, there are plenty of developments here that have UPVC for thinking about it for their original install. But not that many that would custom fab.
So what do you using for post holes? I mean, what did you do for the supports for your fence? Are you digging down a couple feet or?
Absolutely not.
No.
No, I mean,
No frost warning here. No need.
We've done it in the past without a doubt, and then all that we would do is just use a pretty aggregate filled cement underneath it. But the Miranti fence was on top of the existing concrete fence because the neighbours could see us, and that was not great. They got offended by my naked swimming. That's not true, but it could have been. So that one was on top of another fence, and then where the pounded aluminium was, there was already a cement pillar underneath as a step,
okay, yeah.
so we could literally just go straight into that with some anchor bolts, and where we went. And it's perfectly good.
I've seen back home where you can buy these concrete blocks that have the grooves in it so that you could literally put the concrete block down, maybe a little aggregates, and then just put the pieces in, get some frame brackets, and you got a fence or a little deck pretty darn lickety split fast.
Yeah, well, that's almost the concept that they use here for building sites, isn't it? When they fence off building sites. So you have those blocks, and yes, they're exposed. But all you do is shove that underground and, with a specific system, and that's feasible to do.
I wonder if people use those for home stuff, though.
No.
No.
Well, if you imagine, very few people here actually build fences.
That's true.
It's
these big concrete walls that are
yeah, exactly. So most people already have that in place, and if they do want to, and as a result, if you do want to do it, there's just not enough demand for it to have standardised products, I think, which makes it slightly difficult.
Yeah. Construction in neighborhoods and potential for shifting and cracking of walls.
Yeah.
You guys ever deal with that?
Yes, we have actually. Interesting one, that, because lots of people see cracks in their walls.
Yeah.
They have building in the neighbourhood and they join the dots. And then we get there and kind of when we look at it, or when I look at it these days, I can go, that's a settlement crack, it's got nothing to do with your next door neighbour. So we haven't had one yet that has been destabilisation as a result of nearby construction. It does happen, and that's almost standard in the UK that happens. But again, you're talking on 100-year-old properties, not 15-year-old. Normally here, if there's something structural, it's due to your own building that's got the problem. And we've seen that before now on a couple of occasions. That's really scary when that happens. But the majority is just settlement cracks.
Okay.
And at that point, a settlement crack generally is kind of a 45-degree angle, and you can't get your hand in it. If you can get your hand in it, you've got some serious subsidence that's going on there, and especially if it tracks the brickwork behind. So if you've got straight lines that are showing you there, that's generally when you've got structural stuff rather than settlement.
I've seen some of that recently. I don't know where I saw that, but it was tracking with the lines on something. I was like, ooh.
Well, here's the interesting one. You get this quite a lot exterior. And again, we did a big project on, actually probably quite close to you, in a Mdf compound, which was actually, we did two. We did a six villa and a 5 villa. Well, this must be a few years ago because I managed it myself. What happened there was, because the sun was hitting one of the end walls, over time, that expansion and contraction combined with very poor finish originally and one coat of paint meant that all of the mortar within the bricks was expanding and contracting at a different rate to the actual hollow blocks, and the whole thing just was a disaster area. But again, when we looked at the inside, there's very little issue. So we're like, you know what, you'll be able to patch repair this and it will be fine once it's done properly. And interestingly enough, I went past that only a year ago and it was still looking great. So I'm like, get it. Right again. So, there's very rare that you'd find interior that kind of scenario.
And as you're saying, literally, there are still areas where there's quite a bit of construction happening, and you don't find that as they're doing stuff, it really has an impact on other buildings around it.
Very rarely.
You feel it though. You feel they were doing some packing on a road close to where I was at. It had to be 500 meters away. I could feel the vibration.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, this isn't good. This is not good.
Yeah.
No visible damage to anything or anywhere, but I just thought this vibration can't be pleasant.
I'm sure it's not great for buildings, to be fair.
Yeah.
However, again, if you've got paling next door, I would be more concerned. We had someone digging a swimming pool, like maybe five or six villas up. And when I say digging a swimming pool, I don't know how they got it in, but they had one of those enormous diggers.
Really?
With the full-on arm.
Really?
I'm looking at this going, I still can't work out how it got that. To be fair, I wasn't interested enough to be able to go out of my back garden to go and have a look at how they got the access. But I could see the arm swinging from ours, pre-fence. And I was like, gee whiz. And yeah, exactly. I could feel the ground moving at that vibration. And it is kind of freaky, but no more cracks for us as a result.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. What else do we have here? I mean, we're getting through everything beautifully on this.
This is unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normally we waffle off in some random direction. And this time we're almost sticking to it.
Well, we also had the anchor brackets and things for fences if you're doing prefab. And you're using those for your shed.
Yeah, well,
aren't you? I mean,
I wouldn't say anchor brackets as such. Mind you, I've just ordered the cladding for the shed now, which was an interesting one. Yeah, I went in the end with marine ply, which was an interesting choice. Not what I was originally planning, but basically when it boils down to it, I thought about using like a waterproof MDF. And then when you look into it, there's no such thing as a waterproof MDF. There's water resistant MDF. Yeah. Well, what do you mean by that? Oh, well, it only expands within 28% instead of complete disintegration.
28% expansion.
Sorry, excuse me. Let's just go there again. Right. So basically, this panel is going to expand by 28% when it gets in contact with water. Yes, that's correct, sir. Right. So in which case, how does that work out as water resistance? Oh, well, it's within tolerance.
There we go. It's within tolerance. 20,
excuse me?
20%.
So then I was like, right, okay, let's look into this a little bit more. So then marine ply is what's been used for boats for decades and decades. And there's this new version which is also designed to be resistant and totally resistant with boiling water as well.
It's not resistant with boiling water?
It is resistant with
now
boiling water. This version.
But it wasn't in the past?
No, it wasn't. So now they've added this.
What class is boiling water? Like the water that comes out of the tap here in the summer could be boiling.
I know that, no, because we're talking about chemicals here, I'm talking about 100 degrees centigrade. Okay. Right? So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, if I can boil it, I can freeze it, and it can be used in boat building and kept submerged underwater. Really? That's what I need. So I went to see.
Is that the one is it brown too? It's got like a brown coating finish on it?
You can have it film finished, but I didn't really want that because I'm planning to paint afterwards. So then I went to Danube. I think I mentioned just in the last episode. I went to Danube, lovely people, but the problem was they wouldn't give me any of the kind of cutting service that I needed, and it was like really standardised. And their prices were good, but then I called up Mr. Timberland, who I dealt with before and spent a small fortune with. And Mr. Timberland is very persuasive. He's like, yeah, I can cut grooves in it, because now my plan is I was going to clad it, and instead, if I do 15 centimetre gaps and then shove like a groove line in it, it will still give me that same approach, but I haven't had to do both some form of thin ply first. I can do it as an all-in-one. Nice thinking. So as a result, he said, look, I'll throw that in for you. And he's like he's probably 20% above, but I got probably 50% of the cuts done by him, ready to go. And actually, just before I came in, father-in-law is inquiring whether or not the wood has arrived.
This is the father-in-law who was staying in Deer in the hotel?
Yes, who we've now banished from the house, having gone to a brunch last week. Ooh. Bless him, loved dearly, but there are times where you're just like, please don't. Oh, well, I've got some business going on, but I'm sure you have, but it doesn't have to be over a brunch. So we've given him a week to find out whether or not he's going to survive it. And if he does, then hopefully at the weekend he will be welcomed with open arms. She doesn't do anything stupid in the meantime. And hopefully he can come over. And if he's very lucky, he'll get to help me doing the shed. How back to front's that? Oh my Lord.
So yes. I'm curious about the groove. So it's going to kind of look like a barn finish when you put the paint on it.
Yeah, so it's going to be painted, but in effect I can only do...
The wood's not smooth though, is it? Or is it very smooth?
Oh yeah, it's very smooth. It's very smooth. But also, my main issue, because originally I wanted to stain it and use planks instead. Yeah. Well, did you know that cedar, which is a softwood, is more expensive here than excuse me, Miranti. And Miranti really has no texture to it as well.
Cedar's more expensive?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know. So I guess it's where it's shipped from that may well be the reason.
Yes. Cedar's great. No bugs like it.
Yeah, I know. But again, I wanted something, if I was going to stain it, I wanted something that would have at least some element of wood about it. But then the other reason I wanted cedar was, I forgot what the technique is called, but where they burn the wood on the outside.
Yeah.
Seen that?
Yeah.
So it basically brings up,
Scorching there.
but it brings up all of the resin into it.
Yeah.
And then it basically produces a protective coat.
Right.
Yeah? And we've been watching this on a whole bunch of house programs. We're like, oh, I like the look of that. I'm not sure it'll work in Dubai or look that great, but I really like the idea of that. So I wanted to have cedar just so I had that as an option. But now that's not feasible. I'm kind of like, right, you're painting it. So next thing is I will get told what the paint colour will be.
You haven't inquired yet about where we're going with that?
Oh, I'm not going to inquire that until the last second, so that way she doesn't have the weeks to be able to work it all out. You've got 5 minutes. Give it to me. That's my plan.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You know what? It sounded good, and I think we've nailed the list. I think we're good to go here.
Great.
We have solved the world's problems this week in the DIY world.
Well, that's what we're here for, isn't
I
it?
believe it.
I can't believe you've actually done that.
I'm actually looking in shock that the list has gone through. Did we miss anything? I don't think so.
No, we did electric locks last week, didn't we? I know what we missed. The Murphy's World.
I love Murphy World.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know what this was.
Until you looked it up.
Yeah, I mean, I knew about fold-away stuff, but Murphy's is like the brand.
Yeah, Murphy. Murphy beds, Murphy desks, Murphy
Yeah.
tables, Murphy modular living. Murphy is the brand. It's kind of like Kleenex and Band-Aid.
Got you. See, that's an interesting one because I'm sure for the majority of properties here, you wouldn't initially think, oh, you know what, I need another bedroom that we can use as a separate room, until you really think about that. Which is, if you imagine the obvious one would be very small apartments where, or studios.
Danube had a whole bunch of those. They had some complexes that were kind of like these studios, where instantly this kind of stuff, furniture that folds off the wall, becomes ideal.
Yeah, it does. But then I think it actually has a wider use than that, which would be that many people that are living in a 3-bed with parents and 2 kids and want to have relatives stay.
Right.
Well, on that one, the idea of a fold-away bed in some kind of office seems to make a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I actually think there could really be a market for it,
Hey,
which is quite something.
Start thinking about that. This might be an in.
It could be an in, but then again, I then saw the video. They had an amazing video on the Murphy site of it all folding out. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, that was a bit complex installation. But yes, maybe one day, once we've got a little bit more abilities in that area, that could be something to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, really interesting, this whole fold-away concept.
So if you're not familiar with it, go take a look, and away we go. Colin, you know what? I truly think it's time we wrap this thing up. And wow, we have been so efficient, so on topic, and I don't think we've ever done a conversation like this.
I sincerely apologise, it won't happen again.
But did the therapy session work? That's the question.
I am feeling a lot more chilled than when I walked in, so thank you, Dr.
There we
James.
go. This is the We Will Fix It podcast. It's on Podaholics. You want to get in touch with us, podaholics@gmail.com. You know how you found us because you're listening to us, and we'll do it all again really, really soon. Thanks for listening. Share the link. So long for now.